Well, welcome again to BCA TV. As you all know, Mr. Childers, the President of Ireland, died suddenly earlier this week. And as a mark of respect to Mr. Childers and to his family, we have cancelled this week's showing of the BCA TV programme. And instead, we're showing the film of the opening day of Community Week, the 14th of September, when Mr. Childers came to Ballyfermot and gave an opening address. He praised the Community Association in that address on their wonderful achievements in community work and encouraged the association to continue on their great work. Mr. Childers' death is a great loss to the nation and to Ballyfermot. We extend our deepest sympathy to Mrs. Childers and her family on their great loss. Telegrams of sympathy have been sent on behalf of the Ballyfermot Community Association by Mr. John Sweeney, the President, and Mr. Sean Sherwin, PRO. Now, all of us down here in BCA TV, we somehow met Mr. Childers on that day, in the opening day of Community Week, and we found him out to be, contrary to his public image, if you like, a very warm, kind and sincere man. And I'm sure when you see this film again, you'll notice these qualities coming through in him, and I hope that you'll remember him for that.
No more lead. Okay. -7. The thing at the bottom, -7. It is, yeah. Is this okay? Yeah, whenever he's ready. You can talk to me. Right. Is this for voice level?
Hello, my name is John Hammond. This is the first relay to Community Television in Ballyfermot. We're at the parade for the fourth parade, Community Parade, at the start of Community Week, which runs right through to next Saturday.
Okay. Once again, no, this is just for test. Off you go.
There again.
Here he is.
This is him.
Hey, here's the Hey, Childers is here. Childers is here, lads.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, roll it.
Yes, and President Childers is arriving just now with his armed escort, of course. You're watching Ballyfermot Community Association TV, but this is the first time any relays have been made to Ballyfermot. First time for Community Television in Ballyfermot, so this is quite an historic occasion. President Childers there shaking hands at the moment. We've got President walking towards the centre with David Connolly, who is the manager of the BCA, manager of the centre. Children, of course, gathering all around. Mrs. Childers also there, and the armed escort. This is the 4th community week that has been run, but this is the first time it has been seen on community television. And this will be followed by the parade. Mr. Childers will preside and watch over the parade. He's at present inside the centre, and he will come out when the parade starts coming up the road, which should be any time at all now. Community Week, of course, always met with great enthusiasm from everybody. And it's incredible the massive scale this has to be worked upon. So just sit back there and see if you're a child among all the ones there. This is Dave Connolly, manager of the Ballyfermot Community Centre. Dave, the people of Ballyfermot, they usually know about Community Week when it's on, but I'm sure there's a lot more preparation goes into it. Could you just give us some idea of the preparation that does go into Community Week?
Yeah, well, a great deal of work obviously has gone in over the last few weeks in getting Community Week ready, both on the streets and in the area committees, etc. Now, as you can see, the people here are still working away, getting the place ready, and we're expecting the parade to arrive at any minute. Obviously, a lot of preparations, like for the reception, which has been held after for President Childers, etc., is done by the women who work here in the old folks groups. Yeah. And the streets are hopefully will put up more buntings than they have today.
Yeah. Could you give us a rough count as to about how many are involved in preparation and all?
Oh, it's very difficult because the Sports Federation have done a great deal of the organising for the all sporting events, and they've got 30 or 40 members just on that federation. So, you know, it goes to 50, 60 people who actually work on different events, and each of them, of course, has to get, you know, the compliment for that.
Well, perhaps that gives you some idea of the preparation that goes into Community Week. Up the road, the parade, any minute now, because President Childers is going over to the platform. Crowds gathering around him. This is the first time that Ballyfermot has had anyone of the standard of President Childers for to open Community Week. And the big cheer goes up as he enters the platform now, followed by Mr. John Sweeney, chairman of the BCA, and Mrs. Childers. Getting settled in there, and when the parade goes by, we'll have a speech from President Childers and also from Mr. John Sweeney. The parade should be coming up any minute, but to give you some idea of the things that have already started in Community Week. The Stardust Girls Table Tennis Marathon, which will go on for 50 hours, started this morning in St. John's College from 8 p.m. onwards. That's this morning, the Stardust Girls Table Tennis Marathon. And the handing over ceremony of the Gaels, the corporation handing it over to the Ballyfermot Sports Federation, will be at 4:30 after the parade. The parade now approaching down around the roundabout, and it's led by the banner from the Ballyfermot Community Association. The band to lead it is the Turf Lodge Road Band, down from Belfast. They also have a Gaelic team down for tomorrow's match in Markievicz Park at 3 o'clock between the Turf Lodge and Ballyfermot. Behind the Turf Lodge Road Band, Cherry Orchard Youth Club, the main football team in the area, caters for 250 children in about 14 teams. And President Childers being presented, or Mrs. Childers, sorry, being presented with a bouquet of flowers by a young girl on behalf of the children of Ballyfermot. And everybody settled down on the platform to see the parade come by. It's coming closer now. Yes, and they're arriving now. The Turf Lodge Road Band then leading the parade. If anyone has not got the leaflet with the guide to the events in Community Week, they can get them from the community centre or from your road committee. But everybody should have got one round to their house. There we are. It's Turf Lodge Road Band then, straight down from Belfast, especially for Ballyfermot.
Mary, do you want to use this mic?
The Turf Lodge Road Band, their outfits, green blazers and mustard coloured skirts and green socks, and their hats full of decoration, a green beret with a orange and white flower, you could call it, on the front. Very pleasant looking altogether. That's the Turf Lodge Band. Oh, this is the Fiat. Next float, the Fiat float. Fiat, of course, have the factory up on the Kylmore Road estate, and they employ a tremendous amount of workers from Ballyfermot.
We want you to support your
That's
president.
the Fiat. St. Joseph's Record Club in Rossmore Road are the next to arrive. They were organised by the women on Rossmore Road, and apparently very successful altogether. Next is Cherry Orchard Youth Club, I've already mentioned, with the famous red and black. 14 teams, as I say, and it would be worth your while to go up any Saturday and support these teams. Their managers put an awful lot of time into them, so they're well worth every bit of support. full of enthusiasm. There you see them. The running clubs and the various sports committees coming up now. Jesus Road. And there's more for the Cherry Orchard. Publicity stunt. Lafonia Road come next. Then the Ballyfermot Athletic Club, Blackditch United. Ballyfermot United Football Club, the other big football club in Ballyfermot. And the Ballyfermot Judo Club, which has always done very well in the Olympics. Father Douglas Malone and Father John Wall, who of course had such a success with the tandem race, but to raise funds for the OLV Youth Centre. TV Packaging Limited. That's just a general Ballyfermot get together on top of that. I needn't say any more, just look at that one. There's the Boy Scouts. Liz Abbey School of Irish Dancing. And O'Moore Road represented this time. Controversy in the crowd there. And another band arriving now. This is St. Cecilia's band, which is well known and has been abroad representing Ballyfermot. I'm sure every person in Ballyfermot knows of St. Cecilia's band and John Mitchell, who is the band leader. And Phoenix Relays, next, the people who are bringing you this, and who of course are responsible for Relay Television in Ballyfermot. Next, the Peace Corps.
From Mullingar to Dublin, a 50-mile race. It's all happening, folks. Fantastic. 1974.
Peace Corps with a worthwhile message. Give peace a chance. A reminder to keep your litter. Put it away safely. This is the corporation contribution. And President Childers and Mrs. Childers obviously enjoying this. This is St. Cecilia's accordion band from Ballyfermot. Another section very well known again. Pan TV Rangers. And this is the Clondalkin Motorcycle Bike Club. They've generously agreed to come along today. Many of their members are from Ballyfermot actually. This is the 4th Community Week and the 4th parade also. Very impressive altogether. all the walkers gathering on the side of the roads and all the floats also. And everybody interested, of course, in everything that's happening. Again, they give peace a chance sign from the Peace Corps. Ballyfermot, of course, 44,000 people, and it is a credit to all the clubs and the sports committees to cater for the amount of children in the community. But now focus on the Turf Lodge Road band. And the band leader displaying her skills. A few of the events in Community Week. By the way, there is one on Saturday the 24th of September which is not written into the programme and is a lot of importance. It's a volleyball exhibition in the vocational school at 3 p.m. next Saturday. That's a volleyball exhibition next Saturday, 3 p.m. in the vocational school on Kylemore Road. Tomorrow, of course, there's a special mass in the Church of Our Lady of the Assumption, Lower Ballyfermot, 1 p.m. Relay races for under 11, 12, 13 and 14 on Muskerry Road and on other roads. Gaelic match, as I said before, between Ballyfermot and Turf Lodge. This is an annual match. They always come down for this match, and they've come down during Community Week, especially this year. Then there's the married women's soccer first round, which is sure to attract a lot. Plenty happening on that score. There's the fancy dress for children in the O'Hogan Road Centre tomorrow at 3 p.m. And of course street activities everywhere during the week, from discos on the roads to races on the roads. For the mothers, on Tuesday the 17th, there's a cookery display and exhibition in the Upper Community Centre at 11 a.m. And now we have a speech from Mr. John Sweeney, Chairman of the BCA.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. No. Public address. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Mr. President and Mrs. Childers, may I, on behalf of the Ballyfermot Community Association, and in fact everybody who lives in Ballyfermot, welcome you to the opening of our Community Week. Mr. President, may I say that this is a unique occasion in the history of Ballyfermot, for you are the first President of Ireland that has presided at a civil ceremony, and it is indeed an honour for myself and my colleagues on the council to have you here with us today, both yourself and Mrs. Childers. We are honoured, and when the history of Ballyfermot is on paper, I can assure you that this will be a day to remember as far as we are concerned. I cannot, in words, say the things that I'm feeling, because some of us, in fact probably all of us deep down, have lived for the day when the President of Ireland would come among us, help to open our festival and bring about a situation where we are truly community, the President of Ireland and the people of Ballyfermot. Mr. President, may I briefly recall hearing you at a seminar in the RDS some years ago mention the kind of situation that we have here today in bringing about a better understanding among people. Mr. President, today you are witnessing some of the things you talked about and some of the things that we dreamed about. I would ask you, Mr. President, in your capacity to use your influence with government and statutory bodies and anybody who may be interested in community, to give community associations an opportunity to show themselves to be responsible groups of people and to be accepted as responsible groups of people, to try to understand them in their difficulties and help them out of their difficulties, because it is my view and the view of the Council of Ballyfermot, and I'm sure it is your view, Mr. President, that community associations and community councils have a tremendous amount to offer. And in this day and age when so much of emphasis is played on protest and get as much as I can, community council and community association philosophy is a way to peace. And if I may close on this note, Mr. President, the ideas that have developed in Ballyfermot have, thanks be to God, been adapted by some other associations throughout the country. Not in total as to the way we work, but some of the ideas have been taken and used to advantage. And the one that I recall using to most advantage the things that happened here in Ballyfermot, I speak of the Bogside Community Association in Derry. And it is my belief and the belief of the council members and a lot of people here in Ballyfermot that the ideas that started here in Ballyfermot for better community living has contributed in no uncertain manner to the almost peaceful situation that now exists in Derry. And please God, and I say this sincerely, Mr. President, that in the future that the idea of community association will be the way out for community problems and strife instead of resorting to protest. We have so much to gain by peace. I will conclude, Mr. President, by again giving you the heartiest possible welcome that we in Ballyfermot can give you. Long may you reign. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to introduce to you the President of the Republic of Ireland, Mr. Eskin Childers. Mr. Childers.
Mr. Chairman, Attorney General, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen of Ballyfermot, and young people of Ballyfermot. 15 years ago, there were very few people in any country who recognize the difficulties that arise when people come and form part of what is really a new town. The sense of loss of friendships, the sense of not being part of a community. People coming from all over Dublin, people coming from outside Dublin to form a new community. A new town being formed inside a great city. Now Ballyfermot is the size of Waterford City. It's 4/5 the size of the whole of Derry City, and so it was quite evident that the people of Ballyfermot had to develop a personality of their own. They had to feel that they were part of a living community, where they could get to know each other, where they could have a sense of comradeship between each other, and where they could develop all the many complex services that are required. Services for the old, for the underprivileged, for the sick, and above all, the services required for the younger people growing up who need recreational and educational services without which they would be lost. Now there are so many of these services that you have to have a well-constructed, efficient organization. The problem of Ballyfermot was quite simple. You couldn't divide it into 4 separate towns of 10,000 each, because Ballyfermot was Ballyfermot. It was bounded on one side by the river, on another side by the railway line, on another side by green fields, and on the fourth side by the city of Dublin. And so Ballyfermot had to grow up as one city, 40,000 people, with services to develop of every possible kind. Now, to run a community organization to suit 40,000 people was no easy task, because that is a very large town. And you could have a great many divisions of opinion, and among the 40,000 people there could be all sorts of people who would want to run it one way, other people who want to run it another, people with all kinds of different political views. And so to bring about an organization to run the community services of Ballyfermot required great help, great dedication, the support of the people, and now, ladies and gentlemen, you're beginning to succeed. You're beginning to succeed in this objective. And how did you do it? You are virtually the only community organization in this country which starts with 46 separate street committees, and then goes on to 4 area organizations, and finally ends up at the top with a community council and a community executive committee. The street committees, I understand, carry out a wide variety of social services, looking after the old, the sick, and the underprivileged, and helping young people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you were only established about 4 years ago as a full community organization. And I can say without fear of contradiction, having visited some 60 community councils all over our land, that you made astonishing progress in 4 years, because it takes time, money, patience, the help of many volunteers, and above all the support of the people to get an organization going like that. Now, to mark the progress that you've been able to achieve, you have begun with a small community center. You're now looking for a larger community center to suit the needs of the whole of the city of Ballyfermot. And I'm calling it a city of Ballyfermot because Waterford is called a city and Derry is called a city. And you really have become a city in your own right, part of the greater city of Dublin. You have succeeded in bringing about the formation of a swimming pool. And then, of course, the recreational needs of the huge numbers of young people in Ballyfermot are absolutely without number. But at least you have a sports federation with 9 organizations engaged in 9 different sports, and you've already provided athletic facilities of one kind or another for no less than 3,000 children. I can say without fear of contradiction that there are unhappily a great many small towns that are really part of Dublin and a great many areas all over the country where they still have to provide athletic facilities for young children. So you've looked after 3,000 of them, and you're now looking forward to a new games complex, a larger games complex to look after more of the young people. And you plan to look after young people for GAA games, soccer, athletic sports, tennis and handball, and gymnasium. And when you have this larger sports complex, you're going to have coffee bars and social facilities. I'm glad to hear this, because there are far too many young people in this country who have nowhere to go but the pub in order to meet each other. And I'm glad that you're meeting this challenge. And then again, may I commend all the editors and all the people who helped to run your community newspaper. A community organization cannot operate successfully without a local newspaper. All praise to the people who run to the Ballyfermot Community News, because this gives the people of the community the news of what's going on, the news of the community facilities available, and it turns the people of Ballyfermot into an enlarged family. Now, we all know that the family is the Christian basic unit of society. We also know that in a town like Ballyfermot, a city like Ballyfermot, that the family has to extend to the community. And every member of every family has to create the situation where the people of Ballyfermot adopt the young people of Ballyfermot, so that the young people have not only their families to care for them, but so that they are cared for by the community at large and wide. And so I'm glad to hear of your successful community newspaper. And only in this way can the people of Ballyfermot have civic pride, pride in their community, a knowledge of what their community needs in the way of facilities, willingness to support the community with their voluntary gifts, willingness to support the street committees, the area organizations, and the community council. I find that wherever I go, there are unfortunately still selfish people who go back to their homes at night and are quite indifferent to community needs. Very often they are people who haven't begun to think of what the community means to their children, to the city where they live, to the town where they live. And I hope that the street committees and the area organizations and the Community Association Council will overcome the selfishness and the indifference that can still be found in every place where a community council is started. And I hope that the people in Ballyfermot who have not yet joined to help Ballyfermot Community Association will realize that apart from this being a really Christian duty, it's a very good investment. Unless Ballyfermot Community Council can make the same progress in the next 10 years as they have since 1971, you will have every kind of moral and social evil in this community. You will have vandalism. You will have young people growing up with a complete sense of cynicism and indifference, both to their own future, to the future of their community, and to the future of their country. And we need social patriotism in every area of Dublin, and only the lively work and the enthusiasm of a community association can ensure that the younger generation will have civic pride and social patriotism, wanting to make something good of Ballyfermot. Recreational and educational facilities for young people are of importance. And I'm so glad to hear that in Ballyfermot, the young people have already shown ability in arts and crafts, in painting, and in hobbies of various kinds. And I always say that young people, when they grow up and go to work, that they have an enormous amount of leisure. compared with what they had 10 or 15 years ago. And if you exclude 8 hours sleeping time a night, and you count up all the hours of leisure that a young worker has when he begins work, and you divide it by 24 to make days, it means that excluding sleeping time, that the young people who are working, and before the girls marry and have children, have 161 days of leisure out of 365. And I continue to say around the country, without fear of contradiction from anyone, that what the younger generation do in their spare time will largely decide what will be the future of the Irish people and the Irish nation. The extent to which they go on practicing the hobbies they've learned at school, the extent to which they learn to read, learn to play games, learn to sing, learn to play a musical instrument, learn to sing in choirs, engage in drama and discussion groups, make use of the better education they've had in school. And we cannot look forward to a great Irish civilization if when young people leave school they cease to do anything useful whatever in their spare time, and if far too many of them spend hours in the pub or too many hours looking at television and not doing something for themselves. Well, I understand that the Ballyfermot Community Association and the area committees and the street committees are gradually going forward with a program to help young people in athletics and to help them with educational facilities. And then I understand that young people in Ballyfermot themselves take part in voluntary service. I find from my experience going around community councils that the best way of giving young people an idea of what is good in the world, of the constructive forces in the world they live in, is to enable them to take part in voluntary service. And for the young boys and girls between the ages of 16 and 20 to call on old people to help people in trouble, as I am told, for example, the Peace Corps are doing in this community and in which many young people are engaged. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've heard talk around the country that parents discourage young people from taking part in voluntary service because they say they ought to be working at their examination. And so I went into some inquiry about this, and I asked in a number of towns whether any of the young people who helped in community work had failed to pass their examination. And all I can tell you is that when young people engage in voluntary service and help community groups, it seems to help them pass their examinations, ladies and gentlemen. And most of the inquiries I have made have led to this, that 97 out of every 100 boys and girls who help in community work pass their examinations extremely well. There are a great many things that need to be done by a community association, and progress has to be steady. I find, for example, that far more attendance is needed by young people who intend to marry and who have no knowledge of cooking and no knowledge of how to budget family expenses. I find, for example, that the study of home economics by the younger generation has to be encouraged by a community association. And I could talk for the next 10 minutes on all the things that need to be done by a community association. Most of them are in train in Ballyfermot, and I hope you'll all give your support to them. Well, now, progress, if it's made in the next 10 years, at the rate it's been made in the last 4 years since the great Ballyfermot Community Association has started, will show that Ballyfermot is a lively city in its own right, where the social services have been developed with the help of the statutory authorities. And I always find that wherever there's a powerful community association, that the health board and the local city corporation and the other state services, they cooperate more effectively with a community association than in the case of a town or a city or an area where there are no community facilities available. So in conclusion, I hope that all of you will support Ballyfermot Festival Week. You have a wonderful program with dozens of various events to suit everyone's need, to suit everyone's taste. I hope that the Ballyfermot Community Association will first of all be able to raise money to go on with their work, and secondly, that as a result of the festival week, that more and more people in Ballyfermot will come to realize the importance of community services. And ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure in declaring open Ballyfermot Festival Week.
Mr. President, may I thank you on behalf of the Council for your very kind remarks, and at all times, both yourself and Mrs. Childers are welcome in Ballyfermot. Ladies and gentlemen, the President will now help to open the new sports complex locally known as the Gales. Thank you for your participation, and I'd like to thank everybody who participated in the parade. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who may not know, tonight at 7 o'clock, on the Spur channel on your TV, all that has taken place and all that will take place later on will be seen in full colour. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the management of Phoenix and the technicians who make all of this possible. Thank you so much. Tonight at 7.
noise level is very high, isn't it?
Yeah. On behalf of the Ballyfermot Community Association television team, I'd like to thank you for giving this interview. And on behalf of the people of Ballyfermot, I'd like to thank you for coming out today. You mentioned the words a lot today in your speech, community development. You obviously put a great emphasis on this, and I was wondering, why do you consider this so important?
Well, I suppose the principal reason is that there are 14,000 young people in Ballyfermot City, as I call it, and they all need to have opportunity to play all the games that they like to play, and they need a place to go and engage in hobbies and music and singing and discussion and drama groups. They need to have their growth taken care of by the people of Ballyfermot.
Yes, I think you are very kind and very lavish in your praise of the achievements of Ballyfermot over the last 4 years or so, but there is always room for more achievement. And if there was one thing which you'd like to see happen in Ballyfermot, what would that be?
Well, I'd like to see more of the people in Ballyfermot give more of their time to community effort, and perhaps give more of their money to help the community association. And you'll find everywhere that the amount of community spirit varies from one street to another. And I would like to see the street committees where people are not giving enough help look at some of the street committees where there's a great deal of activity and follow their good example.
The community development, we say, in one particular town like Ballyfermot, do you think that has a very big effect on any other towns, like in Dublin, we say?
Well, I think it sets an example, because when I go to a community council, which has only just begun, where they have to develop all the services that have been developed here in the last 4 years, I tell them to go and get advice from the Council of Ballyfermot or the Council of Crumlin or the Council of Colester and some of the other places where they're working very hard at community development. So the work of Ballyfermot sets an example to the other townships.
Mr. Childers, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And so you have the final of today's events, as President Childers makes his way towards his car, and Ballyfermot Week is now well and truly on its way.
I don't think so.
I'll round it off.